Our vise for our rotary axis is a compact unit. It has two independent jaws that can be moved with these thumb screws on the sides. Those thumb screws also have hex sockets there, so you can provide a little bit more torque to lock your part in. The vise mounts to the rotary axis with a precision machine pilot on the surface of the faceplate of the rotary unit and a recess in the vise. So we'll align the vise on the rotary unit so that the counterboard holes on the body of the vise align with the M3 tapped holes on the faceplate of the rotary axis. Then we'll drop in our M3x12 socket head screws, and we'll want to torque those down to about 12 inch-pounds. Now in this setup with the standard jaws on the rotary unit, you can mount stock up to about 14 millimeters, so a little bit over 1/2 inch. If you need to mount stock larger than that, you can use the step jaws, which just drop on to the primary jaws on the vise. Now it's of course important to get the step jaws well aligned with the primary jaws of the vise. To do that, we'll take a piece of stock, place it inside the vise, and tighten down the primary jaws against that piece of stock, and then we'll compress the step jaws against that stock as well as we torque them down. And with the step jaws installed, you can clamp stock up to about 56 millimeters, or a little over 2 inches. So one of the critical steps in doing 4th or 5th axis work is finding the center line of your rotary axis unit within the travel of your machine. So the rotary vise can be a great tool to help you do just that. So I can clamp a piece of flat stock in my vise, and then I can hone the rotary axis unit, which will get it approximately level, and then I can touch off on 2 points in Y and set my A-axis offset to make sure that this part is level. And I can also touch one side of it, flip it over, rotate it 180 degrees in your controller, and then come down and touch the other side of it and make sure it's pretty well centered in the Z direction. If it's not, then I can adjust, I can say loosen one side of the vise and tighten the other until I have the part approximately centered. So then I can come down with my touch probe and touch one side of the piece of stock, lift my probe up out of the way, rotate the unit 180 degrees, come down and touch the other side, which really is the same side of the stock because I've rotated 180 degrees. And then I can just move to the center point of those 2 points, and then I know I'm centered in my Y direction. So then if I made note of the dimension between those 2 probed points, I can divide that by 2, and then when I rotate the unit by 90 degrees and I come down and I touch off the top of the stock at that same point that I probed in the Y direction, then I know my Z height, my Z center line. It's going to be half that distance that I probed in the Y direction. So the vise can just be a very useful tool when you're setting up your 4th axis configuration and your 5th axis configurations.